Hey everybody, this is Professor Luminate here, and we're going to go to our second step of the building process, which is adding textures to our Prim. So if I bounce out to the real world, I'm signed in with my avatar, and here's the Prim that I created in the earlier session. And we'll just take a look. So as it stands by default, it's going to have this kind of grainy wood texture. So I'm going to right click and choose edit in my pie menu. Again, I could have just created a new Prim if I wanted to, but this is an existing Prim that I worked on, and I want to add some texture to it. Now, I could add, say, a picture from the real world if I wanted to do that, and remember some of the other, the earlier tutorial I showed you how you can upload a photo into the world so you could put it on this Prim. So there's a couple different things you can do here. If you go to, say, this texture tab over here, you're going to get a square that looks like this, and you're also going to have a color tab. Both of those will have some influence over the color. But let's just stick with the texture tab, and that's really where we'll focus in this tutorial. If I click on this texture tab, I get it to open up and look at this is my default texture, which is the wood. But within this, there is some textures. Again, you want to go to your textures folder, and then also at the very bottom of your inventory, this is just collecting textures from your inventory. There's what's called the OpenSim library. So there's some preset textures in here. And if I click that drop down on that library, there's a textures folder within there. And then if I kind of scroll up, you'll see these are nice because you have a lot of like gravel textures, brick textures, grass textures. Here's an example. This is mahogany wood, which is a very dark wood. If I click on that, you'll notice that my Prim changes to the dark wood. If I wanted to, say, put a gravel type texture, I could put that. That's going to be kind of a gray and dull, and give it a second. It may take a minute to res in. And let's just try one more. Let's do cobbles. So this makes a cobbles type texture for my block. And notice that when I do this, it's gonna put the texture on every part of my cube, or in this case, the rectangular triangle. So sometimes you may want to put, just say, a texture on this side of your object and then a texture on the other side. We can do that, but let me just show you one more thing before we go. We change the texture, so I'll just click select. Say I like that cobbles. There's a little button up here that says full bright. I often check this one. It'll just kind of enhance the texture. Notice how it brightened it up. I'll kind of take it off and put it back on. This full bright button will really kind of brighten up your texture a little bit. I almost always click that just to make it better. If you click this color tab, you'll get a color palette, and it will kind of put some color to your object, but often it's usually not so good, especially if you've got a textured tab already. So I'm just going to undo that and just cancel that. So again, but that's there for you if you want more of your standard colors. You can put you can texture just with a color rather than like a pictured texture. So before I let you go, let me just show you. If you go up here to your radio buttons within that menu that we showed you earlier with the position rotate, right underneath there is a select texture button. So if we want to change the texture from one side to the other, I can click that. And notice what happens. I get these kind of bullseye signatures here. So if I click on one side of my Prim, just that becomes highlighted. If I click on that side of my Prim, that becomes highlighted. So in this case, I could put a different Prim on each side of my object. So to do that, I've selected this one. I'm going to click my texture square again, and it takes me back to my texture menu. So say maybe I want this bricks. I'm going to just change that, and I'm going to click bricks. Okay. Now I'm going to click over on this side. Maybe I want to change that to something different. Maybe I want to find a photo that I took. So I'm just going to click on my texture tab again, and it'll take me to my texture library, but it's also going to take me up here to my photos. Let me see if I can find some of my photos in my photo album. Okay, so here's some students that were doing some building and creating. Let me just see. There we go. Let's do some pictures of cows and click select. And that'll just change that side of the texture. And again, I'm going to use my Alt Control buttons to help me move around. So that'll help you do that. So now I've got one side that's brick, one side's cows, and I've got one side with that. I'm going to rotate around. I'm going to choose this side. Notice my bullseye shows up. I'll change the texture to something else. And let me just do this rock terrain and select that. Okay, so that's how you can texture your objects. So you're going to go in, go to the texture tab, and you can either choose a one size texture for all. If you don't select this, that'll change the texture for everything, or you can choose textures just by clicking this radio button. So I hope that was helpful, and we'll stop here.